So we'll focus on grids. We'll have another demo or video for graphs later on. Let me go into my MicroStrategy environment. I'm going to use the MicroStrategy tutorial, and let's use this reports area to create our first grid. New report. Use the blank report. So the different areas in the editor are obviously your tools right here. You got the report objects, which will contain all the items that you will be adding in the template. You also have the local filters, which are your filters that operate on the template, and they will impact your SQL and customize it to produce the results desired. You also have a view filter, which is post SQL operation, meaning that it just allows you to show pieces or parts of the data so you can filter later on without rerunning the report. The report details returns the information that was utilized in your local filter at runtime, so that the user can later on understand or recall what filters were utilized or what prompt answers were used. Okay, so first thing first, create our first report. Let's go to attributes. Let's add, let's go to geography. Let's add region. I'm going to double click and it'll add it right here. And let's add country. Okay. Let's not add country, let's just filter by country. And I'm just going to choose one country, USA. So I just create a filter. If you want to use a different filter, you can. I'm going to remove it from here, so I'll just drag it over here and go to my public objects, filters. Let's do a time selection. Let's allow the user to select a quarter. Yeah, let's do select a quarter, multiple selections. See what that does. And then let's go back to attributes. Let us add a product attribute. Let's add category. Now if you don't like the order, you can always drag things back and forth. Let us go to attributes again and add a month. Add it right here. Now let's add metrics. So you need attributes and metrics to create a report, obviously. So let's do revenue. Now if you don't want to drag, you can also right click. So revenue and profit. Right click and add to columns for metrics. Okay. Now this is simple. So the attributes are in your rows and the metrics are in your columns. Let's run this and see if there's any. You can run it by clicking the run report or the grid view. Either one is the same. Let's run it. It's asking us which quarters you have, and it has some default. Let's just keep the defaults for now. Run it, finish. Alright, great. So there's a lot of data that's coming back. As a developer, you might want to, utilize some tricks or some some adjustments to make better use of your report or make it better, give it better visibility. So we see regions. There's a lot going on here. You might want to modify that. Let's drag this guy and see what else we can do with it. So again, you can do your editing after you run the report, or you can go back to the design view. Depends. There's some more options in design view, but actually let's go back to design view and see what we can do. Let's add the page by option. So I want to drag region into page by. This probably will make our report look a little bit better. So now we have the category month, and we have all our regions listed up here. We can toggle between one or more. Okay. One more thing we can do is pull our attribute on top of the metrics and break down, or actually right click to and move it to columns. Moved it to page by mistake. Let's move it to columns. Alright, so now we have our months for 2010 and the categories listed. So there's a lot of ways you can, play with this data set and reorganize. You can have your month down here or your category up there, your month down here, your month. So it depends on how you want to view your data. You can play around with it. Okay. Now let's go back to design view. Let's go over the basic items that you need to worry about or care for. You can, if you like this template, you can save this template for later use. You can add a new prompt, or you can drag a prompt up here, like I said, or you can create a prompt on the fly. So you can choose something like attribute qualifier set qualification and create a prompt after you choose your metric or your attribute, sorry. And then you can make it prompted and say, oh, which one do you want? Okay, I'm going to cancel this. You can see our prompt creation demo or video to see how to create prompts. Okay. Besides that, we have the ability to save and to probably to add properties like a description of the report. You could send it to history instead of running it, or you can create a document based on this grid right off. I would not utilize this here. I would create a document separately and utilize it alone. Let's see, filters. You can save your filters, so the combination of these two filters can be saved as one filter right here. You can reorganize your filters, move them up and down. You can edit them, obviously. Okay, so we're back in the design mode. Some of the few things that you could do is you could add new metrics. You want to do a calculation, a computation. Let's just say you do something like profit minus cost or minus revenue. That's your, let's say, cost. Something like that. You could also use the functions from MicroStrategy. They have like over 300 functions. You can choose, you can do least, last, etc. If you want basic functions, you can do date, time functions. So different functions allow you to do different things. You can explore them and see, what kind of functions you want to do, and choose the target right here. Okay. If you're not sure, there are some descriptions down here that'll show you what you can do. Let's cancel out of this. Let's keep this guy. So we created a cost. Now notice this, the cost needs revenue and profit metrics, but let's say, so if I take the revenue off this report, this metric will not function well. But if I want it, I can drag it up here, which means I don't see it down here in the template, but it's still part of this report, which means cost, which is derived off revenue, is still a valid metric. Now there's a lot of utilization for putting items right here like thresholding, etc. So there's items that you want in your report but you don't want in your template, which means in the SQL you will see this but not here. So if we run the SQL, you will see region selected, category, and month. So all of those were selected, okay, and the two metrics, revenue and profit. Okay. You will not see cost because cost is computed right here at the analytical engine after the SQL is generated. So let's go back to our design view. All right. Formatting. We can format the different headers and values, fonts. Let's just take a quick look. Fonts, borders, colors, number. If you want it to be specific rather than default, you want it to be specific number of. If it's a numeric, you want it to be how many decimals, you want a dollar sign, etc. You can also go to the data. You can sort different things. So you can sort, for example, your rows. You can say by month, or you can change it to any of your items right here. Any item that is on the dashboard, okay? So let's say you want to sort it by month, and your columns you want to sort them by category, okay, descending, ascending, etc. Oh, this is the description, sorry. Here's the ascending, descending, or you can drag it and see it here. This is by what form of this attribute do you want to sort. If it's a metric, there's no sorting option here, or the option is you don't have control over the option. And then the pages, if you're using page by, you can also sort by, you sort the regions specifically by certain order, okay? Alright, let's keep this. Subtotals, you can add subtotals to your report. I recommend using subtotals at the after running the report, and same thing with thresholds, so you can see what you're doing. The important one here I want to mention is the report data options. This allows you to add report limits, to control your metric joins, inner or outer join. Most developers will use outer join. And also aliasing, you can say my cost, so you can alias things on the fly. You can tell what to do with null values. So null values, just say no data, for instance. When you aggregate a null, what do you want? It usually defaults to dash dash. Missing objects, you can tell it, oh, say missing, etc. Drilling, you can drill anywhere, or just limit it to drill down, depending on your needs or your limitations. When you drill, do you want it to apply the current page by that you're drilling from, or all the other page bys? When you have multiple, you probably want to do all, depending on your needs again. And you want to retain your page by selection when you save this report, yes, which means the last selection that you conduct, or the last selection that you choose at runtime and you save, will be will be returned as the default. So that's a good one to keep, because designers usually want to save a certain item selected first. And if you want your report totals open in full screen, you can select this as well. Alright, now drilling, you can edit drill maps. Again, you can go to our video about drill maps and see how to do this, but you can specify drilling right here in the report as well. Bulk export, data mart, these are different topics, but you can simply explore them if you want. You can convert it to intelligent cube. You can export, and you can specify which export options. You can say, oh, I want it to have this file name and this appearance, I want the report title added, etc. I want it to apply formatting. And you can do this for all of these. One of the ones that matter, maybe the PDF. You can go to advanced options and say, well, the header and footer, I want to add something like date on the left, and maybe I don't know, something else that might be useful, report name on the right. Maybe remove this, etc., or have a logo added. Alright, so there we go. Now the rest of the options here, we can actually look at them after we run the report. So let's go and run the report. Okay, so here's our report. We wanted to add subtotals, so let's add subtotals. Let's make it a default total. So here we are, we have total cost per month and profit per month, and then we have the total cost for category books, the total profit for categories. And you could also have totals for, like you see here, for all regions. If you click all, it will bring everything, or just specific. So you can do it at multiple levels. You can specify if you want it just specific levels rather than all. You just go to advanced and say, well, I don't want it for everything, I just want it for month or category, but not region, etc. So you can play with it and do your own subtotaling. Thresholds, critical. You can create thresholds for any metric. For instance, cost, where revenue is greater than, and I'm not sure what number, but let's let me run with 10,000, see if that makes sense, or let's just go 1,000. And either replace the text or format it. I just clicked here. Let's give it a background of solid yellow, or maybe that's a green if it's over 1,000. Okay, let's see if it applies. Okay, there we go. So anywhere it was over, this is the revenue over 1,000. So let's edit. So profit minus revenue. So apparently there was a loss here registered. Profit minus. Did I say profit minus revenue? Let me edit it again. Okay, let's switch it around. It's revenue minus profit, right? So I mistakenly created the wrong formula, but I can flat edit it here. It's going to be the same numbers, but now they're positive. And it's saying it's green if it's over 1,000. So let me drag it here and make sure that my numbers are correct. You could do that on the fly. That's a good thing. So all of them are over 1,000. Let's change it over here. Instead of 8,000, let's go here. Let's add a 0. Make it 10,000. Okay. And okay, I don't want this one, so I'm going to delete it. Alright, so now only the ones where the revenue's over 10,000 are highlighted in green. Now I can take my revenue off. Again, you can keep it here in your report objects. Okay, so there we go. This is our basic report. Things you can do, you can choose auto styles. For example, let's do colorful. There we go. Again, you can save an auto style if you created things. You can modify grid borders, display outline results if you have multiple. Let's do display outline results. We only have one because we don't have quarter here. But if we go to editor mode and we bring in quarter, for instance, from time, and put in the quarter right here, and we run this report, now we'll have two outline levels, the quarter and the month, for instance. Okay, again, it depends on what your needs are. If you notice there's something odd here, and it's probably due to sortation. Let's do this because we forced it sort by month. Let's remove this and see what happens. Okay, so that's because we were sorting by month, but now we really didn't need it. We want it to go by default, so the quarter first, then month. Okay. Let's see what else we can do. For the data, for the header, we can merge column headers or unmerge them. Here's the merge, and let's merge it again. So that just is allowing you to split and break things. So let me show you again. So we had books, electronics, and when we unmerge books, electronics, so each column gets its own header. Depends on what you need. If you need to export it to Excel, this might be more useful. I don't know, it's up to you. You can lock headers just like Excel, or lock columns, meaning when you scroll. So if I lock row headers and I scroll to the right, the blue, light blue should stay there. Okay, you get the point. It's straightforward. And you're using automatic column widths with adjusts. That's why you notice the books column was smaller than electronics, because it's automatic. But if you want to manually adjust it, you can just go here and drag them. Alternatively, you can Control G. If you don't want to use the Control G, you can just go here to Options. And the general is saying, okay, do you want custom banding or not? Depending on what you want. This style had custom banding. You can remove the banding, which means each row has a different color, slightly different. And you can do auto fit or fixed width for a column. And you can specify exact pixels, so 120 for instance. You can remove the extra column, web only, which is this right here. The metrics would disappear in the web, but in the desktop it'll appear. Okay. For row, we usually keep it auto row unless you have a specific height you need to use. Okay. All right. So that takes care of most of our needs. You can swap rows or columns, but I recommend you drag them specifically and add them right here. Okay. You have the VLDP properties that you can modify. If you want your SQL to be specific, you can export this report to all these different types. Right here, you can re-execute. You can make sure that the report caching does not cache if you don't want it to cache. You can reprompt it if you need to reprompt the report. And that's pretty much it right here. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to save and close. And I'll give it a new name. View report, or let's call it my report. Save. Now, because it had a prompt in it, it's asking, do you want to save it with the prompt answer utilized throughout, or do you want to keep it prompted? You know, obviously you want to keep things prompted. If they have a prompt, you want to keep the filter and template prompted, unless you don't care for one of them. We only used, for instance, in this report, a filter prompt. We didn't use a template prompt, so it wouldn't matter if you chose this one or this one. You can set the current prompt answers to be default, or you can ignore that, and you can let it remember your options next time. Okay, so here we go. Alright, so there it is. You can run it from here, or we can go to the web. And under my shared reports, there it is, my first report. Let me run it in the web and see what I can do here. So here's our report, the report details. And the report details shows the filter, the prompt details shows the different, and the page by obviously, and everything else we showed you is still here. Again, you can control which, if you want to remove the outlining modes, if you want to add or remove the banding, if you want to merge column headers or not. Notice these have underlines because the category attribute has a default drill. It drills to subcategories, so just by clicking here you can drill. And if you don't like that, you can go back. You can lock and unlock, and you can auto fit to window or auto fit to contents, depending on what your needs. Formatting can be done here. You can do your advanced resizing. So advanced formatting lets you, change your fonts for different items, values and sub-values, etc. So you can do it on the fly in desktop. You could also resize columns and rows by specifying inches here. You could change this from your preferences to show pixels rather than inches, but we showed you how to do it in desktop as well. And finally, the data. You can modify sorts, drills, reprompt, you can swap. It's a lot of the same that you saw in the desktop, but it's organized a little bit differently. You have more control in desktop, but you still have a lot of control over here. Okay, and you also have a design option right here if you want to go into design mode and play with things. It's similar to your desktop. It's a little bit less powerful, that's all, and then you can go back to run mode. Okay, again, you can save from here after you finish your work. If you want to save your work, it'll ask you if you want to keep the report prompted, and you can go on advanced and say what part of the prompts do you want to keep, and do you want to set the current prompt as to default or not. Maybe not. If you're a developer, you can add the description as well and save it, and it says, do you want to replace? Yes. And by that you are pretty much done